Welcome back to GA Fan TV. My name is Aaron. It is the review show looking back at all the weekend's action in both football and hurling. Of course, a lot to discuss, a lot to break down. So many talking points from the weekend's football and hurling action. And of course, looking at Divisions 1 and Division 2 in detail. We'll obviously touch on Divisions 3 and 4, but we obviously do have some hurling games, obviously, to discuss as well. So I certainly don't want to go on too much in detail in regards to them games. But yeah, a lot to discuss. Matthew, I mean, I'd imagine your form is a lot better than last week after that result over Kildare. So, I mean, the roller coaster of being a Cork fan continues.
It does, no, Aaron. Yeah, thanks for having me on again. Yeah, like a very good weekend in fairness. Like for once, Liverpool or Cork didn't ruin my weekend. Like Cork footballers won, Cork hurlers won, albeit it was it's a pre-season game. A lot of people are saying we have one-handed the All-Ireland again this year, and rolls around again. Cork hurling fans saying, "Oh yeah, they handled Liam McCarthy," but no, Limerick will be back. And Ireland won on Saturday, the Six Nations as well, a comprehensive win. So very, very good weekend, Darren. So yeah, enjoyed it, and yeah, looking forward to getting into it.
Yeah, and I was just thinking as well, like it was almost like the weekend where all the counties who were asked questions, a lot of the counties who were heavily criticised last weekend, the likes of Cork, for example. I mean, we discussed them last week in detail, and you certainly weren't happy with how they performed. But even Tyrone as well, like answering questions that were put to them. You had Sligo, who got a first win of the season in Division 4. Westmeath got a big win as well. So it seemed like there were a lot of, and even Dublin to a certain extent delivered a comprehensive win in the end, albeit it was probably very much expected, but it was a lot better certainly than how they performed against Kildare. So it was certainly a weekend where a lot of counties were, I suppose, under the microscope having how they performed last week, and we've seen how well they answered, really.
Exactly. So, like, Tyrone was very unexpected. Like, it was a comprehensive win in the end, 8 points. And for once, I wasn't watching the Cork game. No, it wasn't live streamed or anything. I'm abroad as well to rub it in. So I wasn't there. And I was just looking through the Scorpio app and Twitter. I was shocked hearing it. 1-7 to no score after, 28 minutes? Kildare didn't score for 28 minutes. I was like, what plans am I living on here? It's incredible, really. And yeah, the Dublin one's a bit of a strange one out, really. They performed well in the first half, from what I'm hearing anyway, but they still only won by 9 points against, let's be honest, the Limerick team that looked down and out already. So, yeah, it was an interesting game. Even Kerry, like they had a lot of doubters last weekend, and then put up a very, very good performance now yesterday against Monaghan. So, a lot of teams really, Sligo as well, needed a win. They got in Division 4 as well. So, yeah, a lot of teams, right at the wrongs, definitely. But a few teams still have no points. A few of them still have questions to answer. Kildare Division 2 now are in a huge, huge bother, but we'll get on to them in a minute. But yeah, very weird weekend. And it's amazing how much things can change within a week. We said about Kevin Walsh, is he going to fix the defensive problems in a week? It looks like he did. So, yeah, it's amazing what GA coaches can do in a week, really.
Absolutely. Yeah, like, and I was speaking to a Dublin fan yesterday who was at the game, and yeah, like from speaking to different Dublin fans and seeing things on Twitter, there does seem to be maybe a bit of negativity about how they performed in the second half. Apparently Limerick had a lot of chances and blew a lot of chances, really, and it actually could have been a much closer game than what people expected. Now, whether that was due to Dublin having a huge lead and maybe there was an element of them switching off, I'm not entirely sure. Obviously, didn't see the highlights, so and obviously didn't see any of the game because it wasn't broadcasted anywhere. But we will discuss it maybe a little bit later on. We'll start off with the action in the Athletic Grounds. Armagh 17 points, Mayo 17 points. I mean, this was a cracking game, especially in the second half. First half was a little bit slow to get going, but the second half very entertaining, really going down to the wire. At one moment in time, it looked like Armagh had the game wrapped up. Then Mayo came roaring back. And then Armagh right at the death, sealing the draw. And I think a few users in the, or a few comments really in my match reaction and even in the watch along as well were saying, in some ways it was very similar to Galway Armagh last year, maybe without the late goals and obviously the late fight and everything else. But in terms of intensity and late drama, I suppose it was quite similar and as good as you'll get for a round 2 National Football League game.
It was, yeah, and let's not forget with the Armagh, like they should have 2 goals towards the end. I think Andrew Murnan had the 2 chances actually, and one which he kicked across the goal, and then the one where he panted just wide. I think he clipped the post. So Armagh could have easily gone back into the game, but while Armagh were absolutely brilliant coming back into it from 5 points down at one stage, what a comeback. But Mayo, doing Mayo again. I don't know. I think, like, I don't want to criticise them too much, Mayo. Like, they have performed well in the first two games, and Kevin McStay seems to be putting a stamp on the team. But they should have won that game yesterday. Like, any decent, like a Kerry or a Dublin in their pomp would have closed out that game yesterday. Like, it was very difficult to see. Like, even I think it was Owen McLaughlin took that last shot as well. Like just a bit of game management, just recycle the ball, get it to the shooter. And at that point, I think Ethan Rafferty was outside the goal as well for Armagh. So like that makes it even more. Oh, it was frustrating, I'd imagine, for Mayo fans watching that game. And even the first half, it was very niggly. Like Armagh could have easily had multiple yellow cards. They had one yellow card in the end. And Mayo got two, so I don't know what that was about for the referee. But at the same time, like, geez, Mayo will be coming out of that game. Like at the same time, like TG Carr actually mentioned it, Mayo would have been happy at the start of the game with a draw because Armagh, I would rate anyways, top three in the league alongside Galway and Kerry at the start of the season. But when you look at the game overall, Mayo would be absolutely kicking themselves. And I suppose it's the usual story of Mayo football. And Kevin McStay still has a lot of work to do.
Yeah, plenty of comments flying in there, which is great to see. We've 27 people watching there live, so if you could hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Let me know your thoughts on some of the weekend's action. Teske says, "Are you doing a watch along when Meath v Dublin?" I actually might go to that game, fully enough, but if I don't go to it and it is on TV, I will certainly do a watch along. Make no question about that. Obviously, huge game in Navan as well. It's quite rare that Dublin play Meath away from home. So it's obviously, it's going to be a great game, and looking at how the division is shaping up, there could be a lot on the line in terms of promotion in that game. McGow says, waiting patiently all day for the show, lads. Very much appreciate the support there. And the JMac podcast says, Honda lads, Dublin, Cork and Cavan win. Hopefully that was a good enough accent there. Good weekend. Yeah, it was a great weekend, I suppose, for all three of us. All three wins there, so not too bad at all. Mead Man says, annoying how so many games this weekend weren't on TV and weren't showcased on the Sunday game or Allianz League Sunday. Yeah, and I suppose maybe that is a conversation for a different day, but and that probably is the frustration when you have both hurling and football, because there is so much to discuss, and it's they probably should really split the shows, but I suppose that probably is a conversation for another day. Miguel also says, great analysis of the Armagh Mayo game. Mayo always create chaos, and you're right, we got out of jail despite doing well in the first half, so easily could have lost it. And I suppose it's a hard one to know, really, because there were some questionable decisions. All right, I think I forgot to mention in the match reaction yesterday with Rion O'Neill's opening score, which the umpires signalled wide, which should have definitely been given, in my opinion. So there was a lot of confusion in this game. Questionable decisions, could have arguably been red cards for some of the Armagh men on the field, and questionably maybe some decisions should have went Mayo's way as well. So it was a very chaotic game, and I suppose that added to the chaos, really.
I suppose it did, and funnily enough, with the Rion O'Neill point, I missed the first 20 minutes of the game because GA goals decided to cut short Mayo and Armagh. So we need a refund there. But it was a very weird one at the start. Like, Mayo started very, very poorly, but Jordan Flynn got the back of it into the game. Killian O'Connor could have easily hit the back of the net as well. Poor kick out. And he just put it over the bar as well. So Mayo, there was goals in that Mayo team yesterday. I thought, well, Armagh had a few goal chances at the end, but if you look at the game overall, I think Mayo were probably just a better team. I think a lot of Mayo fans were actually disappointed with their first half performance. But the point was, they may have been performing poorly there, but they still stuck in there and they still took the lead. The problem was at the end of the game, just errors, really, just basic errors to close out the game, and Mayo just didn't do that. They create chaos. A load of people are saying that, and it's true. When you look at the Owen McLaughlin incident, for example, that just epitomised Mayo in the last 10 years or so. Like, why did he take the shot? Just give it back to Killian O'Connor, give it back to Ryan O'Donoghue, the shooters, and just calm the game down, But no, he took the shot, and I suppose it's pressure now on Mayo, because I look through the fixtures there. Their next game is against Kerry. And now Kerry, they could be with Clifford and O'Shea the next day. That could be a tough game. And I think Mayo will look back at this game. I know Armagh are a good team and all that, but they look back at it and think, that's a point dropped, Like, if they want to survive in this league, they need to take a foothold in the last few minutes, especially because a lot of teams are just going to take points off each other, especially in Division 1. So, like, I think Mayo will be very, very disappointed after yesterday. Indeed, Armagh, they might have had goal chances to win it, but I think Armagh would be delighted with the draw. They'll go into the next game now, and they have 3 points on the board. So, like, it's a good start for them as well. So, yeah, onwards and upwards for Armagh, but for Mayo, I think it was a point drop, to be honest.
Yeah, like, and I suppose down the years, like, you see what Mayo and the chaos they bring to games, and I think sometimes it's definitely aided them in winning some big games through the years, the likes of, games against Dublin and maybe Tyrone in semi-finals when they beat Tyrone a good few years ago, like, and the odd win against Kerry here and there, and all are in semi-finals. But it does seem like when you are watching them, like, it doesn't seem like too much has changed so far from when Kevin McStay's took over from James Horan. Like, they're still, even in the second half, you could see a predominantly running game. Like, they were kicking into Aidan O'Shea, which, to be fair, I thought was working quite well. I thought Aidan O'Shea actually had a fairly decent game. Kicked 2 points, I think one a foul. He was fairly involved. He helped around the middle. But I suppose the general consensus from Mayo supporters is that, well, we've seen that before. Aidan O'Shea, they've tried him out. They've put him in those positions before, in big games, in All-Ireland finals, and it hasn't worked. It might have worked on Sunday against Armagh, but in terms of a long-term scenario for Mayo, like, it does feel like we've seen this version of Mayo before and it hasn't worked.
It's an interesting point. Like, I would have said before the year on, I said it on the JMAC podcast, I think it was, that Aidan O'Shea shouldn't be near the Mayo team, and I think he's gone past the sell-by day. But in fairness to Aidan, I thought he performed well yesterday. I thought 2 well-taken points. I thought he was claiming the ball very well. I thought he was involved in the play pretty much as well. Like, Jordan Flynn had a good performance as well. Killian O'Connor, Matty Rowan around the middle as well. Like, I think Killian O'Connor, when he came on, I thought was the forward that Mayo needed. Ryan O'Donoghue was one of the top scorers in the Alliance League at the moment. They could be the 2 forwards, and with Tommy Conroy coming back, like, I know Mayo, I thought it was a point dropped yesterday, but there's still some positives I see, like Ryan O'Donoghue, Killian O'Connor, Tommy Conroy to come back into the team. Bob too, he's showing a bit of promise there. Let's not forget, Dermot O'Connor, I think, was injured yesterday. He didn't play, and he's a quality footballer as well. Like, it's a difficult one with Mayo. Like, Rob Henley's to come back into the team as well. Lots of Mayo fans unhappy with Rory Brickenden, the full back. Maybe he'd be better off at wing back again. Like, that's a discussion for another day as well. Maybe they move David McBride into full back. I don't know how they'll do that, but Oisin Mullins seems to be a loss there. That's a big, big loss. Like, Pádraig O'Hora, when's he going to come back to the team? If he comes back, like, Mayo would be set as well. So I think there's still some positives for Mayo, and I think there's still, a steeliness about them from Kevin McStay. I think that's changed. But the problem is, like, just the end of games, just game management. And Mayo have had this problem for years. And I don't think it was fixed yesterday. Maybe it's a work in progress. We see it with Cork, for example. Like, Cork defended terribly last weekend, and now all of a sudden they defend well this weekend. Kevin McStay now has 2 weeks to solve this and say to his players, look, calmness on the ball, get the proper shooters in, and go for the points then and kill off the game. They weren't doing that against Armagh. They haven't been doing it over the last few years. That's why they create the chaos. So, yeah, but there's a few positives for Mayo, and the main one being Kevin McStay has 2 weeks to fix that problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and certainly a lot to work on from a Kevin McStay point of view. I mean, I imagine I'd be happy that, looking at the first 2 games, they've come away with not losing any of the games, but at the same time, they'll certainly be disappointed that they didn't hang on against Armagh, because they had a 5-point lead. And as you said, that Owen McLaughlin chance, all he has to do is keep the ball. There's a whole host of things he could do there, and I think the one thing he couldn't do was go for it and put it miles wide. And unfortunately, that was obviously the scenario that happened. looking at some other results from Division 1, Tyrone obviously started their Division 1 campaign, or I suppose got their Division 1 campaign up and running with a win against Donegal, winning 16 points to 8. A result that probably did surprise some people in some respects. Look, Tyrone are always very strong in Healy Park, and I think if we had been predicting Tyrone Donegal a week ago, maybe before last weekend, I think a lot of people maybe would have predicted Tyrone to win the game, but obviously having seen Donegal beat Kerry and Tyrone's lackluster performance against Roscommon, a lot of people lean towards Donegal here, but fair play to Tyrone. They stood up, they got the victory. Dara Canavan, impressive with 3 points. I thought he played well against Roscommon last week as well, in fairness. Darren McCurry doing the business. Padraig Hampsey good at cornerback. So Tyrone, they'll be happy to get their season started, and I suppose they've gotten their season started a lot earlier than they did last year.
They have, yeah, very, very good win. And I probably would have predicted a Tyrone win probably 2 weeks ago. But look at them last week and looking how Donegal got over a Kerry team that was, I know they were still a second-rated Kerry team, but still to get over the line there was a brilliant achievement for them. But to win the game by 8 points, that was a brilliant win for Tyrone there. But the worry I'd have with Tyrone, I'm doing scores obviously for the Alliance League. They have 15 different scores, but only 3 of them have more than a point. And I consider that a worry for Tyrone. If I was a Tyrone fan, like only Darren McCurry, Dara Canavan and Kieran McGeary have got more than 1 point this Alliance League campaign. And that's worrying, I think. And it shows that Colin McShane still isn't hitting form. Niall Slutton, you look at who else there, David Mulgrew is a point on the board, Richard Donnelly, Peter Hart, but I'm thinking they need to push on a bit more. They need to get more scores on the board. Like you can't, imagine Dara Canavan and Darren McCurry have an off day. What are Tyrone going to do then? So that's a big obstacle for Tyrone to go over. As for Donegal, 21 points in the Alliance League in the first 2 games, no goals scored, and it probably just showed they don't have a goal threat anymore. Like Jamie Brennan used to be a goal threat in some games, but he doesn't seem to be getting near the goal. Paddy McBrearty, I think, has only scored 2 points in this Alliance League campaign. Like, this isn't, like, Paddy McBrearty, by now, I'd say last year would have got, I don't know, close to 10 points. He's that kind of a player, and he's only got 2 points on the board. It's pretty bad return for a guy that, was supposed to stand up and be counted with Neil McGee and Michael Murphy gone. So, Donegal need to fix that in due course, definitely, but good win for Tyrone, but I would still be worried about their attackers so far this season.
Yeah, as we were saying before, I mean, I did see Rory Canavan obviously named on the bench, which is obviously good to see. And I suppose it's one of them things with some of the players opting out in the last couple of years. Your Tiernan McCanns, your Lee Brennan, Paul Donaghy, these lads like that. That is the worry for Tyrone, isn't it? Like that. Although they do have quality forwards in Darren McCurry, Dara Canavan, as you mentioned before there, but not having that extra option maybe to come off the bench, like that could be key to, I suppose, hurting Donegal further down the line if you can shut them lads out.
Exactly, yeah. It will improve for Tyrone, you think. Like last week was a disaster really defensively, and not many people will talk about their attacking threats at all. But it only came to me actually last night when I totted up the scores. Like I know it's 15 different scores, but like you'd expect some of them players to step up more. Like Colin McShane, for example, you would have thought he'd kick on after that All-Ireland final in 2021. Rory Canavan, that's a good sign. He's a very, very good player indeed. Conor Cush, would he get involved this year, or has he got involved? He's not seems to be on the scoring sheet at all. So like Tyrone still have a lot of work to do attacking wise. And the fact as well, they were playing like maybe the result last week masked over the problems for Donegal in a way. Like maybe like we've seen it with Kerry at stages. We'll get on to Kerry in a minute, but at stages in the Kerry game, they looked disinterested in the league. And they probably looked disinterested last week as well. So maybe that masked over Donegal's problems. And a lot of people are thinking Donegal are back on the road, but this defeat would set them well back now, Donegal. It's going to be a big chance for Paddy Carr to rejuvenate these players. Good win for Tyrone, but geez, after this result, I'd be more worried about Donegal's prospects, to be honest with you, because that's no goal scored. Didn't look threatening yesterday, so yeah, I'd really worry for the Donegal lads.
Yeah, like I mean, as you said, like Paddy McBrearty with a point, Jamie Brennan with 2 points, Conor O'Donnell's look lively. Like he scored 2 points, but generally from a Donegal perspective, like they did only finish with 13 points against Kerry, which was enough to get the victory. But yeah, like I mean, like obviously to get that win over Kerry was huge for them. And look, they could go out next week and possibly pull off a win, and then things are looking up again. But as you said, not really looking too positive in terms of scoring wise at the other end of the pitch.
No, it isn't at all. And I think they're one of the worst scorers overall the league as well, Donegal. And one of the few teams, like they've scored the same amount as Waterford. Let that sink in as well. And Waterford have been pretty terrible in Division 4 as well. So no, it doesn't look good for Donegal at all. Like you'd fancy them to beat Monaghan. But then again, I think Monaghan have actually showed more attacking threat than Donegal. So again, you'd worry for them there as well. Like I'm looking, where's the win going to come out of Monaghan? Mayo? Probably not. If Kevin McStay still has a few weeks to recover and things like that. Armagh on their farm at the moment? No. Galway? I don't think so. So like it's going to be very difficult to see where Donegal can get 2 points. Even Roscommon, who are in brilliant form at the moment, I don't see Donegal winning that game either. So it's going to be very, very hard to see where Donegal pick up points if their attack doesn't improve. And you look to the main men. You look, as you mentioned before, Paddy McBrearty, Jamie Brennan, Joel Bradley Walsh is a player I'm interested in. Maybe he should start. I think he in his soccer days he was an excellent player. He's been very good for Letterkenny IT or as it's called now, ATU Donegal in the Sigerson Cup in recent years. Maybe he's worth a shot in the team to give them an extra bit of firepower. But at the moment, the likes of Paddy McBrearty and Jamie Brennan, they seem to be anonymous in the first 2 games. I know Conor O'Donnell's done well, Quaylan McColgan did well last weekend. But other than that, Donegal have been very poor. And I'd really, really worry about this Donegal team. I said at the start of the league they'll get relegated, and I think I'll stick to that prediction.
Yeah, and I suppose moving on, another result that I suppose maybe surprised some people, maybe didn't. Roscommon sealing back-to-back wins. Obviously not the greatest game from what people have said, and whether weather conditions played into that, I'm not entirely sure. But it was Galway 8 points, Roscommon 9 points. Massive win for Roscommon, back-to-back wins. And as Keane says here, a great win for Roscommon. Fantastic to see them grind out a deserving win against Connacht rivals Galway. Tougher games are around the corner for the Rossies, but they can take heart from this win. And look, I think maybe it puts to bed any doubts of Roscommon being relegated. I mean, realistically, you look at it and think you need 6 points. And look, they've played 2 games. They've won 2. 5 points, unanswered points at the end of the game to seal the victory when they only kicked 4 points up until the 50th minute. So, look, a huge win for Roscommon, and it shows a bit of steel in Roscommon. The fact that they were able to dig out a late win once again. It was the final third against Tyrone last week that was crucial. The final third again in this game away to Galway. So if I was a Roscommon fan, you'd be very positive about things at the moment.
You would be, definitely. And what's ironic as well, Davy Burke was unhappy with the performance in some aspects against Tyrone last weekend. He was very unhappy with the performance this week, and they still grinded out the wins. Like this Roscommon team, they always had the quality. There was no doubt about that, with Ben O'Carroll coming in now, Dermot Murta, very good, Kieran Murta, Dara Craig is still proving in this league campaign as well. Roscommon have a plethora of attacking options. And defensively as well, they're pretty stacked as well. Brian Stack there, no pun intended. Roscommon fans, the 2 Daly brothers and Conor and Ronan. So very good players on the Roscommon team. The question was, did they have the temperament to get it over the line in big games? They didn't last year against Clare in the All-Ireland qualifiers, and a lot of questions were asked about that. The mentality of this Roscommon team after that game. But it showed now on Sunday. What a result for them. Maybe, if I don't really want to burst Roscommon bowl, but maybe Galway were affected by the Damien Comer injury at the start. Maybe that just, it was a tough injury to take, and hopefully Damien recovers sooner rather than later. We hope. He performed excellent last year, and hopefully he'll be better, by the time summer comes. But brilliant win for Roscommon to get over your Connacht rivals like that in the last few minutes. Richard Hughes kicking the deciding score. What a win for them. And it's Salt Hill as well. Hard place to go. Tough place to go, where it's very windy, very wet. And Roscommon still grinds out the victory. And statistically, this was the worst game of the weekend. But Roscommon fans don't give a jot. They won the game. And on to the next round now, 4 points from 4. And Aaron, I think they're pretty safe, really.
Yeah, Test case says that's a big blow for Galway with Comer. Had to go off with an injury. Yeah, like I mean, I didn't see any of the game or didn't see the injury. But from what I heard, anyway, he was. I think the game was stopped for about 10 minutes or so. Definitely looked like a bad injury from a Damien Comer perspective. So certainly both of us here wish him a quick, speedy recovery and everything else. But in terms of it from a Galway perspective, that's a huge blow as well, not to have him, because we've seen the influence that he had against Mayo on the opening day, and how long he could be out for, we don't know. But I suppose they'll be trying to get Shane Walsh back now as soon as possible, really, in the next couple of weeks, because like Galway just 1 point from their opening 2 games, so they do need to be a little bit wary of, they need to start picking up wins soon.
They have to, yeah. Like, and with this league campaign, the big thing is if you struggle early on, like you'd have to question yourself, where are the points going to come? I know from experience, like it was tough to watch Cork not get a win in 5 games last season. But for Galway, no matter how good you are, as long as you're not winning, like the doubtness might be creeping into your head a small bit. And I think they'll be on the phone to Shane Walsh, wherever he is, in Mauritius or Ibiza or somewhere anyway. Get on the phone to him, come home, get the nearest flight home, because we need points on the board here, Shane. Like Matthew Tierney, good performance. He scored 1-1 in the 2 games. Daisy Kennedy, 3 points. But other than those players, Galway, again, like Donegal, or Tyrone, should I say, their players don't seem to be scoring much, which is a big thing. And another miss as well, I was thinking Robert Finnerty during the week as well, or last week against Mayo. So that's 2 big injuries in a row for this Galway team. Both were forwards that they run to the All-Ireland final last season. And that's 2 huge misses. And if Galway, I know Galway are a good team. I rate them. They play excellent football, and I'd love them to do well. But like, they need to get points on the board. They need to get Shane Walsh back in the team. But like, you could give them some slack because of the injuries. But the sooner the more often they keep losing, the more desperate they'll get. And yeah, it's going to be a very, very difficult few weeks for Galway. Like, I don't think they need to fix much. I think Power Joyce set his team up brilliantly last season, but they just need to take their chances. They need to do better. Like, 8 points in a game is not good enough. Simply not good enough to beat Roscommon. Roscommon performed pretty well to win the game, but Galway need to bulk up a small bit and get some points on the board, or else they'll be looking over their shoulder.
Absolutely. Cyranish Gaming says that Donegal and Monaghan possible relegation. You'd certainly have to put them two as the front runner. Gavin O'Reilly says Armagh Roscommon are going to be in the league final. And yeah, what a spectacle of a league final that would be. 2 sides that haven't won major silverware in terms of Division 1 titles anyway in I don't know how long. Like, I think Armagh maybe gone back as far as 2006 or 2005 maybe last time they won a league. And I'm not sure, I honestly don't know the last time Roscommon won the National Football League title, if they ever won it, to be honest. So yeah, like, both sides looking very, very good, looking strong, and I think it would be great to see both of them go on and reach a possible league final. Obviously, you can't rule out Kerry as well. I mean, they got their first win of the season, a comprehensive result against Monaghan, an 11-point win, 3-16 to 14 points. You had the likes of Donald O'Sullivan coming in there, scoring 1-3. Good performance from himself. Some other players standing up like Dara Roach, and obviously Paddy Clifford coming off the bench, and he didn't look out of place at all either. So Kerry are motored up and ready to go for 2023.
And we were talking about proving doubters wrong. I think that Kerry team, them group of second team players, definitely proved the doubters wrong. Like, I know Donald O'Sullivan had real potential after his Sigerson Cup exploits, which he well in recent years. He's an excellent footballer technically. Dara Roach, in fairness to him, I know Kerry has struggled against Cork in the McGrath Cup. They struggled in the first game against Donegal, but he's been the one shining light, in fairness. Dara, he's been absolutely outstanding. He scored 1-5 in 2 games. Dara Moynihan, pretty good as well. Tony Brosnan got back up to speed as well. Paddy, obviously getting that goal. You'd have to question the Monaghan defending for Paddy's goal, but still, it was a brilliant finish, well taken. Tom O'Sullivan had a very good performance as well. Adrian Spillane. So Kerry are motoring along nicely. And do you look, Mr. Clifford, Paddy's brother, certain guy, is in the crowd. He's really ready to go. Sean O'Shea is going to be ready to go in the next few weeks as well. So Jesus, not looking good for anybody in the league, especially Mayo, who are playing them in 2 weeks' time. And what a spectacle that would be to watch Sean O'Shea and David Clifford live on TG Car in the next few weeks. Be brilliant to see. But yeah, Monaghan. Like, I know Monaghan have done well attacking wise. Whereas Conor McCarthy, beyond bad against Stephen O'Hanlon in particular, have done well attacking wise for them. But like, it was like the second half, they just fell apart really, didn't they? Like, it's going to be very difficult again. Like, Donegal, where are the points going to come for this Monaghan team? Like, I know them attacking players have stood up well without McManus on the team, but at the same time, like, you have to question. I know they performed miracles before, but it doesn't seem as if, like, only Donegal really are performing pretty badly in Division 1 at this moment in time. I don't see where Monaghan are going to get points, to be honest with you, other than the Donegal game, Aaron. So it's going to be very, very difficult for Monaghan to stay up this year. And I posed this question to Seamus Brady on my podcast. Will Monaghan use up their 9 lives? It looks as if it's going that way so far.
Yeah, and I suppose some of the Kerry lads there, like Donald O'Sullivan, Darragh Roach, like, do you think, could they come into the Kerry side, like the main starting 15 when the championship season comes around? I mean, obviously you've got Paulie Clifford, David Clifford, Sean O'Shea, who I think are all nailed on. I'm not 100% sure with Paul Gainey whether he is going to be part of the Kerry setup this year or whether maybe he stepped away. I don't really know what's kind of going on there. But do you think the likes of Donald O'Sullivan, these lads might maybe sort of make, a claim to come into Kerry's best team in the championship when that comes around?
Another name as well, Stephen O'Brien, is quite interesting as well. Or has he retired? I'm not sure, but
I'm not sure actually. Yeah, I don't know.
Like, it's going to be difficult for them to get back in the team now. So it's going to be very difficult. Like I said about Paul Gainey years, I think he's one of the most underrated players in the country. So, like, even he will find it hard. But I think, like, my starting forward along with Paul Gainey and David Clifford and that full forward usually would have been Tony Brosnan. But the fact he scored really nothing from play in the first few games, I think you have Darragh Roach or Donald O'Sullivan there to take the 15 jersey. Like, I'd say give him a chance maybe in championship, and you can afford to do it in the Munster Championship, Aaron, because like the competition won't be there, especially in the early rounds against either Tipperary or Waterford. No offence to them two sides, but I think they're really Division 4 standards. So I think Kerry can afford to play nearly a second team in that particular game. So like I'd say Donald O'Sullivan is definitely up there. Like, you've seen him for UL. I was questioning how is he going to get in the Kerry team. Like, he's a brilliant player at college level. He needs to take it into inter-county level, and he showed it yesterday. He can definitely take it up a notch. So he'll be definitely up there. Darragh Roach, I would have seen him as a squad player in recent season, maybe last season, particularly. But this season, I think he's hit the lights out in the McGrath Cup, in the league as well, with 1-5 from play. Like, yeah, he's been absolutely outstanding. So, yeah, I think either one of them two could easily go into full forward line with Gainey and Clifford. So it's going to be interesting to see how Jack O'Connor meddles with his team in the next few weeks. Killian Spillan's another one. Like, we keep talking about Killian Spillan. When's he going to step up into the team? So, maybe the time is now, because his spot is going to slowly drift away. The better O'Sullivan and Roach get, Spillan needs to perform well to get back into this team. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see his bounce back ability in the next few weeks as well.
Yeah, John says here, Kerry have serious squad depth, missing 8 of the team versus Galway last year. And Jack also says here, Kerry depth, even in the back line, is insane. Find another top midfielder, they are away. And I suppose they did, obviously, Stefan O'Cumber came off the bench, so, he was looking fairly good when he came on. He could definitely be a player maybe to certainly make an impact. Moving on to the Division 2 results, I suppose we have to start with the Cork win away to Kildare, as we were saying there. I mean, it was a mad game. Like, I think Kildare kicked 1 point, I think, in the first half, which was absolutely bizarre considering that they're at home in Newbridge. I mean, in their own backyard. We've seen how strong they were at home last year. And considering how poor Cork were against Meath, I mean, no one could have predicted this, really.
Nobody. Jesus, I wouldn't have predicted. I was sitting on your channel, last week. We've no hope against Kildare. Looking at their form, and I looked at their form last year. Kerry couldn't win there, Dublin couldn't win there, Monaghan couldn't win there. So I was thinking, how on earth are this Cork team going to win when we looked so defensively disorganised last week against Meath? But geez, I wasn't watching the game, so it's a hard one to judge really, Aaron. But from what I was hearing, Cork had a defensive structure. They were willing to get in Kildare's spaces, which is good to hear. But at the same time, Kildare's lateral passing was very, very poor. And like there's questions has to be asked about this Kildare team. Like, I think they've only, I'm checking now, I think 5 different scores in 2 games. That's not good enough, really, when you look at it. Other than Jack Robinson, Jimmy Hyland, Neil Flynn, Darragh Kieran, and Ben McCormick, who's got a single point, Kildare have offered nothing. And it's very difficult to see how they recover. Like, I'd be worried. I know I bang out about Cork and all that, but I'd be worried about Kildare. I looked at their fixtures last night. They've Clare away next in Ennis. They don't have a good record against Clare. After that, they're at home to Derry, and then they're away to Louth in Drogheda. That's going to be a hard 3 games now for Kildare. I'd really, really worry for them. Compounded on that, the Leinster Championship draw, they're on the same side as Dublin. They're in serious danger now of dropping out of the Tailteann Cup. Like, it's going to be a big, big few weeks for Glenn Ryan and his players now. You would have thought, like yesterday, it was the time to win a game, especially against a Cork team who were fragile last weekend. But, jeez, it didn't end up that way. And I was looking at the score midway through it. I was like, is my app glitching or what? What's going on? Am I living on a different planet? Because, like, 1-7 to no score inside the first 25 minutes or something. What is going on here? You know, it's no, but geez, so I'd love to hear the comment section now. Well, Kildare actually, I didn't get the chance to speak to Kildare fans now privately, but were Kildare that bad, or were Cork just defensively sound and willing to break or something? I don't know what went on really, but very good win for Cork. Look at the scores. Sherlock scored 4 points this week in the game, 18 points overall, brilliant showing from him. Brian Hurley scored 4 points as well. Yeah, brilliant performance from him. Brian O'Driscoll back on with 3 points as well from number 12. Very good performance. Sean Powter, Colin O'Mahony, who let's not forget was playing 80 minutes of Sigerson Cup on Wednesday, and he comes off the bench and scores 1-1. So pretty good performance from him as well. So yeah, very good performance. And Kildare had the least score out of any team this weekend, 7 points. I don't know, could you blame Kildare for that or credit Cork? But either way, look, I'm happy. 2 points on the board after a disaster last week. And look, no pressure now going into the Dublin game. So look, I'm happy. I'm happy with the result, but I doubt Kildare fans will be very happy after.
Yeah, and Richie Ryan also said here, was Cork very good or Kildare bad? Also says Kildare looked very good against Dublin. Surely just a bad day at the office can't turn into a bad team in a week. And yeah, like, and I think that blends into, you know, how surprised we really were. Like, and I suppose not getting to see any highlights of this game was a little. Well, I suppose we've seen a little bit on Allianz League Sunday, didn't we? But not too much really. Like, and only Kildare fans who were at the game will be able to know what went wrong. But it was very surprising because it was so out of character for Kildare. Like, when you look at how they performed under Glenn Ryan, I know they got hammered against Dublin in the Leinster final, and that was probably, when you look at Glenn Ryan's tenure, you could probably pick that out as a bad result. But then again, they are coming up against Dublin in Croke Park in a Leinster final. It is a tough game. Aside from that, like, even in the games they've lost, like, they've been fairly consistent. They've battled hard. They've shown spirit. They've fought tooth and nail for the full 70 minutes plus injury time. So the fact that they didn't show any of that in this game, from what I've seen anyway, finishing with a point after the first half, like, it is quite baffling.
It is, yeah. And even, like, I was seeing that League Sunday as well, the post-match interviews as well from Glenn Ryan especially. He was speechless after it. Like, yeah. You could see his expression. He couldn't believe what happened. You know, so geez, it's a huge week for Kildare. They probably just showed, and League Sunday as well, Lee Keegan calling John Cleary Pat. That just summed it up. Like, they didn't know who was playing and things like that. It was,
yeah, they were getting the presenter's name wrong as well.
Oh, they were. Yeah, I see that. Jesus, like, it was a mess all night. I thought it was just me. Like, Jesus, you know, it was very. I would say we'd do a better job, Aaron. We should be banging on RTs or go down to Donnybrook and say, like, we're doing it here on GFan TV. We want the job of the Sunday game now because you keep getting the names wrong. So yeah, but yeah, it's yeah, for Kildare, it's very, very bad. I was seeing the comments on Kildare GA's tweet on Twitter, the full-time score, unlucky lads. And loads of them were saying 1 point would be unlucky, 13 points is a disaster, and there was no fight, no pace, no anything. And Kildare fans were very, very angry after it. Very angry from what I was hearing anyway. So, yeah, I actually heard more from Kildare fans than Cork fans. So I actually don't know, were Cork actually that good or Kildare terrible? I don't know what happened there. But yeah, it's a big win for Cork. Big win. You look at the next few weeks now. Maybe this is something as well, Aaron, that's kind of top of my mind as well. Maybe Cork performed well in a tighter pitch. I know it's something small now, but we performed poorly in Páirc Uí Chaoimh last weekend in a wide pitch against Meath when we were exposed. And against Kildare, we could implement our defensive style and we didn't allow anything. And as well as that, I've seen some pictures. I know pictures can't tell anything from a game, really. But I've seen a few of them of Cork players swarming around Kildare players, not allowing them space. So that's a pretty good sign from John Cleary's team. Yeah, very good signs indeed. But yeah, there's a question now: will Cork go for top 4, or will we settle for a relegation battle? We'll have to see in the next few weeks. But it's a big win for Cork, huge win. Despite the fact it wasn't showing much at League Sunday, I was quite disappointed over that. But yeah, for Kildare, as I mentioned, the fixtures in the next few weeks, it does not look good for Kildare. And I would have thought they'd finish about 4th or 3rd, especially after last season's exploits in Division 1. Looks pretty bad now, Aaron. And we talked about Galway. The longer it goes on, the more questions are going to be asked. Same applies for Kildare. But this is a big few weeks now for Glenroy.
Yeah, Billy says very impressed with Cork this year. James O'Donoghue said they are dark horses. I agree. Cork could be All-Ireland semi-finalists or Munster winners. Cleary and Walsh, good management team. I mean, see, that's the thing with Cork, though, isn't it? Like, there seems to be no in between. And I think I've even said this to you, and even in my predictions video, like, I think I might have even said it wouldn't surprise me if Cork beat Kildare, but lost to Meath. And to be fair to me, they are looking very strong, and we'll get onto them in a moment. Maybe they're a lot better than what we give them credit for, but like that does seem to be the case with Cork. Like, you even look at that year you beat Kerry in the Munster semi-finals, then lost to Tipperary. Like, it's not out of character for Cork to pull out results when they least expect it, but then in games where we do expect them to win, they seem to fluff their lines. So, like, for me, really, for Cork, it's just about building consistency, because you can see the talent levels. You're not a million miles off All-Ireland semi-finals. I wouldn't say you're at that level yet, but you're not a million miles away.
Yeah, it's a quite interesting one. And I think a few years ago in 2017 kind of epitomised that, and it's still there. Like, 1 week we were beating a Waterford team that has no interest in football by only a single point. And it was embarrassing coming out of that night down in Dungarvan. And then the next few weeks we give Mayo a game, but we should have beat them after extra time. That's Cork in a nutshell. Like, it's just, one good showing, one terrible showing, and yeah, one disastrous showing. Yeah, and I said it in a tweet after the match yesterday. Look, it was a good result for Cork yesterday, but I wouldn't say All-Ireland semi-finals or Munster winner. I wouldn't at all, because what happened last week against Meath, some of the defending was diabolical last week. Let's be real. The goals we conceded were avoidable, Like, it seemed to be fixed this week, but the problem is, and then you mentioned it correctly there, on consistency. We need to put up a good performance now against Dublin. I don't think we're going to win against Dublin now in Páirc Uí Chaoimh at all. I think Dublin are still miles ahead of us, but at least show us a performance. Get stuck into them, right from the off, and see where it goes from there. The next game after Dublin, then against Limerick, we have to win that. If we don't win against Limerick, then the work against Kildare will be going down the drain. And funnily enough, I know Limerick are performing terribly in Division 2, and I know Cork performed well yesterday, but there's some part of my mind thinking we could lose to Limerick. It's this kind of a team. So look, I wouldn't be battering down the hatchet just yet. I would not say All-Ireland semi-finals, and I will not say promotion or anything like that. Look, it was a win yesterday, but we need to keep our feet on the ground, go again next time against Dublin, win the games we should be winning, at least, against Clare, against Louth, against Limerick, and see where the Dublin and Derry games take us after that. But look, it was a win yesterday. Next game now. That's all I'm thinking, really. Look, I'm not battering down the hatch, as I said there. Look, it was a win. We have to move on now.
Yeah, Siren Ash Gaiman says here, did you hear what the Meath GA County Board Twitter said about the Down Ballycran facilities? And as Meath Man says, it wasn't the county board, it was just the Twitter account. But yeah, it was quite bizarre, all right, to be honest. I mean, when I seen screenshots of the tweet, I'm going to be honest, I didn't think it was real. I thought, that cannot be real. Like, that has to be a Photoshop or whatever. Like, there's no way that can happen. But yeah, like, that was quite bizarre. Like, I presume whoever's in charge of the Meath Twitter account obviously forgot to sign out, and maybe they thought they were on their own personal account. But yeah, like, it was quite bizarre. It's fair to say maybe that person is probably no longer in charge of Meath's Twitter account.
No, not at all. And does he know, actually, if I know he's watching this now, but does he know on Twitter, when you're doing a tweet, you can just click the circle and change the account? Like, Jesus. Like, it was like Colin Parkinson talking about comedy as well, and the Down manager going and she and saying, "You're a disgrace of a person." That's another controversy here as well. So, yeah, why does Woolley need to get involved, really? Like, it's ridiculous, But I've never been to Ballycran, never in my life, so I can't comment on the pitch. But no, you shouldn't say that as a company. He probably forgot to sign out things like that. But I think, yeah, as you said, I think it's safe to say he got his P45 right away. Yeah, did he get his sacking fee or something like that? He probably didn't know. But yeah, very, very rookie mistake to make, and yeah, I think he's paying the price now. Where is he going to get the next job, Aaron? Probably the butchers.
Yeah, I don't know, to be honest with you. I think, yeah, like, quite bizarre, to be honest. Seeing that from an actual official county, it was quite bizarre, and I'm not 100% sure. Like, really, you're nearly thinking as well, the MGA get hacked or what happened? But obviously they have released a statement condemning it and everything else. And as you said, like, the Down manager getting involved, and seeing things are getting a little bit political as well. Like, it was quite a bizarre scenario, really. But maybe on a more positive note, from a Meath perspective, they did obviously beat Clare in Park Talchin, in their own backyard. 4 goals and 8 points to Clare's 16 points. Back-to-back wins now for Meath. 7 goals in 2 games. So I suppose carrying on the trend, like, there was a trend under Andy McAtee where they were scoring a lot of goals, and it seems like Colm O'Rourke has kept that trend. Like, seen Donald Lenihan in there with 2-2. So from a Meath perspective, I mean, they're getting goals, they're getting wins, and a lot of positivity around Meath football at the minute.
There is, yeah, and I suppose this result kind of epitomised to me as well. Like, maybe I was too harsh on Cork as well, because this Meath team are pretty good at the moment. Like, when you think about it, I rate them as relegation. I didn't know who their players were. I didn't really rate Colm O'Rourke as a manager, considering he never managed an intercounty football before this season. So, like, it was a big job in his hands, but he's doing well so far. In fairness to him, very good win yesterday. But Clare will feel hard done by getting 16 points in Park Talchin and still losing the game. And apparently, according to Meath fans, they performed very poorly and still won it. So that's a good sign of a team as well. So very, very good performance from them. A negative there for Meath is Shane Walsh went off with an injury 13 minutes in. Matthew Costello went off with an injury for DCU as well last week. Colm O'Rourke said it in his post-match interview as well. Very interesting. And to be honest, I'd probably agree with him. Like, I'd agree with him completely. Like, I wouldn't say Meath is my favourite county now after the last few weeks and stuff like that, but I'd 100% agree with him. Maybe there's a time, there has to be a time now where Sigurdsson Cup has to be in a specific month in January, and then start the league in February, because it will just avoid injuries then. I mean, it's ridiculous, really, when you think about it. Them 2 lads were asked to play for Meath against Cork in Páirc Uí Chaoimh on the Sunday, and then travel up to Dublin again for DCU on the Tuesday. These are amateur players, like. I mean, there's a few questions over that, and I definitely agree with Colm O'Rourke on this. And now, as a consequence, they're probably going to be without them 2 star men for the Derry game in 2 weeks' time as well, which is a crucial game for Meath. So, geez, I'd be asking more questions if I was Colm O'Rourke as well. So, yeah, big decisions for the GA to make for the calendar, I'd say, next season, because I think I was on a video last week about the GA calendar with Seamus Brady as well. And yeah, there was a load of points there. Maybe the GA should look at that video as well. Just take a few pointers out of that. Because, look, and even me and Seamus went on about the group stages in the All-Ireland. That's just adding to more games as well. And that's going to add to more injuries. Why does the GA need to do this? Why are you putting more pressure on amateur players like this? Really, it's needless. It's ridiculous. And like there was a fine championship system last year with the Tag Team Cup and the 2 qualifier rounds. If it ain't broke, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Why did the GA need to fix it this season as well? Like it's pretty annoying, Aaron, when you think about it. And it's a shame, really, for the 2 lads, Costello and Walsh, because they performed excellent against Cork. And for DCU, Walsh performed very well last week for DCU as well. And now their seasons could be cut short because of overplaying them. And it's a shame. It's a real shame.
Like, is there an argument though as well? Like, because obviously Colm O'Rourke is coming out and saying that, you know, these players were playing Sigerson Cup during the week, and you can't fault it from the players' point of view because they want to prove themselves. You know, Shane Walsh had an excellent game for Meath last week. He wants to, you know, put his foothold down on the side, prove he's deserving of a starting place. But could there be an argument there as well that Colm O'Rourke should have been the bigger man and just not played them and maybe, you know, brought them off the bench or something of that nature? Because I suppose it's one thing, obviously, criticising, obviously, a lot of players playing Sigerson Cup and player welfare and everything else. But at the same time, he still chose to play the players. Do you know that way? Like, so, like in my opinion, I almost look at it and think, I understand where he's coming from and I think he's not wrong. But at the same time, he still chose to play those players when arguably he couldn't have. Now, I know he wants to pick his best available team to get the win. Division 2 is very, very important. But at the same time, he could have maybe looked at the bigger picture and looked at it and thought, well, you know, these lads were playing during the week, so maybe I shouldn't start them or bring them off the bench. Do you know that way?
Maybe so, but Division 2 is so important this year, Aaron, when you think about it. When you look at the championship structure this season, when you look at the Tag Team Cup, like, we could have lost that. Well, we don't know. Like, they cope well without Shane Walsh, as it turned out yesterday. They still won the game, even with him going off after 13 minutes. But Colm O'Rourke isn't a fortune teller, you know. He wouldn't have known if they could have coped without Shane Walsh or not. Usually, as I said before, I wouldn't defend Meath in usual circumstances, but I'd defend Colm O'Rourke here. I really would. Like, when you think about, like, Division 2 especially, and Eamon Fitzmaurice said it rightly last night in League Sunday as well, Division 2 is so important this season, because if you drop into the relegation zone, I know Meath won last weekend, but they could easily do that as well. If they avoid just 1 or 2 slip-ups, they could be dragged into, you know, bottom half of Division 2. And when you look at the draws this season as well, Sligo or Leitrim could be in a Connacht final, and they'll go into the All-Ireland in 6th place in Division 2 place as well. Westmeath might not be promoted either. So there you could have 2 places in Division 2 gone, you know. And yeah, I think this isn't the time to risk all that. I think the league needs to be taken seriously, especially in Division 2 and Division 3. I think Division 1 and Division 4, you could have an argument. But in Division 2, personally, I don't think you have to play your best players. It's getting to that stage now because the league ties into the championship completely. And, like, if Matthew Costello and Shane Walsh were playing against Cork, let's say, last Sunday, would they have won the game? You know? There's the argument for that as well. So, you know, I still would have played them. I see your point to bring them on and all that, but I'd be more on the point of view that Division 2 is so important. You need to play your best players. And yeah, I think it's the GA issue, I think you need to structure it a bit better. I think have January and December, possibly a bit of December for colleges, and then a February for the league. Problem solved. You know, and I think it's an easy tweak the GA have to make. And as well, they're not helping each other. I know we're going on to hurling in the minute as well. They're not helping themselves as well with hurling semi-finals in the league. What are they for? Like, you know, it's huge troubles with the calendar, and I blame the GA for this and not Colm O'Rourke personally. But again, I can see your point.
Yeah, like I think they really need to get rid of pre-season competitions probably as well. Like I think allow counties to schedule challenge matches, you know, during the sort of season before the start of the league. I think most counties realistically only want to play 2 or 3 pre-season games anyways. And I don't think really there's too much care for the competitions themselves. Like you look at Longford, for example, who we might get onto a little bit later, won the O'Byrne Cup, but have had a very poor start to the league. So, like, could there be a question there that they went too strong in the O'Byrne Cup and now have actually dealt themselves into a bit of bother with, again, too many games? So there definitely is a lot of question marks over that scenario. Dublin, they got themselves a second win of the season. They beat Limerick away from home 2-17 to 1-11. Yeah, obviously a win from a Dublin perspective. I didn't see any highlights on Allianz League Sunday. I'm not too sure if there was highlights, but I had to stop watching the show just towards the end. But it was a good result in the end for Dublin. Again, some question marks over the second half performance. I think Limerick actually outscored Dublin in the second half, and from speaking to some Dublin supporters, there was an air of maybe a little bit of negativity. But I mean, they went out, they done the job, like they were home and hose really in the first half. So, although it was in the end, a 9-point win, or 9-point win's a win in the end.
It is, no, yeah, and it's hard to judge these games when you haven't watched them really. Like again, like the Kildare and Cork game, I've only seen photos and stuff like that. Even looking at photos is just weird. When you think about Dublin playing a league game in the Gaelic grounds, you'd be thinking you're really big on a different planet or something. But yeah, they got over the line. Brian Fenton, another goal. Dean Rock, another goal as well. And yeah, it was easy win for them. For Limerick as well, like, maybe you have to credit Limerick a small bit as well for coming back into the second half the way they did. They didn't throw it at the soul. So maybe there's that sort of argument as well. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one with Dublin though to see. Like, is there a question? Will Cork give them a test in the next few weeks in the Park of Keefe? I don't know. Will they give a big test to them? Derry definitely will up in Owenbeg, or Celtic Park, should I say. They'll definitely will there. You would have thought Kildare, but when you looked at Kildare yesterday, is that a worry for you actually, Aaron, considering Kildare only were a point off you and then performed poorly against Cork then? So does that kind of worry you as a Dublin fan?
It could be actually a little bit, because actually when you think about it, like when Dublin played Kildare, in the first half with every man inside their own 45, we didn't get at them, we didn't go after them, and I presume that's what Cork done against Kildare. They just went at them from the first whistle, got in behind them, and we've seen Kildare have defensive issues in the past. Like last year, Dublin put a number of goals, like 5 goals past them in the first half. Mayo, remember, had tons of goal chances in that game when they played Kildare in the qualifiers. So, and obviously Cork have got 2 goals against Kildare at the weekend. So, maybe it could be the approach that Dublin take to playing Cork. I think Dublin need to get after teams, especially in Division 2. We shouldn't be sitting back defending and everything. Like you've seen against Limerick there, like obviously didn't see the game, but in the first half, I presume we went after them. We got at them, put up a big score. And then if there is a drop off in the second half, well, at least you have the game won. Whereas against Kildare last week, we left ourselves with too much to do really, and going down the home stretch, Kildare nearly actually pulled it back. And this has been actually a team under Dessie Farrell in particular. When you look back to 2021, our second half performances have been nowhere near as good as our first half performances, and we have an element of just completely switching off and game management goes out the window. So yeah, there maybe is 1 or 2 worries there, but at the same time, I would look at it and think it is a time to put the game right. And as we've seen with Cork, like they have plenty of vulnerabilities as well. So I think from a Dublin perspective, it would be just get after them rather than sitting back and defending. I can understand maybe if you're playing Kerry or Mayo further down the line, Armagh, Galway, but I think when you're playing Division 2 sides, you need to just get after them, because the talent is clearly there.
It is, yeah. It's going to be an interesting game now, Dublin Cork, to see Dublin's approach. Will they try again this defensive system for Kerry or Mayo down the line, which you mentioned last week as well, or will they just go at them? Honestly, look, they have to go at them, I'd say. From a Dublin point of view, they have to go at Cork, because Cork, as we seen last week, there's defensive problems, especially in a wide pitch. If Dublin get the foothold on them, they can go after them. So it's going to be a big game. And even the names of the team sheet, like I look, what's his name, Greg McEnany, Darren Newcombe, a few of them players. I think we've seen them in a few under-20 teams, but Like it's kind of strange seeing them kind of players on the team killing O'Gara as well. Like I think the midfield actually, I looked at your midfield. I think that's probably the best midfield that you have in Power Coffee Byrne alongside Brian Finton. I think Coffee Byrne is a smashing player. You should probably play him even more. So it's going to be interesting to see what approach Dublin take in the next few weeks. David O'Hanlon, I think, is probably your goalkeeper to go with. I honestly think he's better than Evan Comerford. I think Comerford might be more of kind of like a Jordan Pickford type of player in soccer, but I think quality-wise, I think David O'Hanlon is a better player. I don't know. Would you agree with me on that? But it's going to be interesting to see Dublin's approach against Cork. It's going to be very interesting because it's going to be interesting to see Cork's approach as well. Because what I was hearing against Kildare, our defence was very strong, and from what I'm hearing and stuff like that, it'll be very interesting to see if Dublin play a defensive system, Cork play a defensive system. That's going to be some boring game playing Aaron. And the fact it's going to be live on TG Carroll. I honestly hope it doesn't go to that. I really don't. I hope both sides don't play a defensive system as they played both times against Kildare or times in the games. But we'll have to see in the next few weeks. We'll have to see. But it was a win against Limerick. Look, they were going to win the game. It was a question by how many and how much points. And they won the game. Next game against Cork for Dublin.
Yeah, plenty of comments flying in here. Keane says Meath are heading in the right direction. Their litmus test will be how they fare against Dublin and Derry. Colm O'Rourke has got Meath football moving again. Daniel says Meath very good. Have to remember, still have players to come back like Conor McGill and Brian Menton. And yeah, I think from a Meath perspective, there's not a huge amount of pressure on them necessarily to get promoted. I think a lot of people would look at Dublin and Derry in the favourites. But what I would say is that Meath game against Dublin in Navan, second last game, the last home game in the league for Meath. If you can go into that game with the possibility of maybe overtaking Dublin going into the last game, if you can make a real occasion out of that game and make it matter, you just never know. You've seen what happens with Dublin when they went to Kildare last year. So I think that's the main thing for Meath really, is just to be going to that Dublin game with an opportunity and a chance of the promotion. And whether you do or you don't, I think there's not 100% of pressure there. But we'll touch on Louth against Derry briefly. It was Louth 1-11, Derry 2-11. Was looking at it on Scorebio. Derry hit 1-3 in the final 15 minutes. So again, Louth had themselves in a very, very good position to pull off what would have been a huge result, and a result that not many people would have seen coming, considering how well Derry started against Limerick. But yeah, interesting. Although Louth conceded 1-3 in the last 15 minutes, they did push Derry close, so they can take some positives. And then I suppose from a Derry perspective, when the going got tough, they found an answer. They got the points in the goal, and in the end, it mightn't have been the most prettiest win, but it was a win.
It was a win, yeah, and we was keeping tabs of this game as well. So yeah, it was interesting to see this Louth were 2 points up with a few minutes left. So I was thinking, are Louth going to pull off a scalp here? And I was thinking, with 2 points up, they're going to do the usual Louth thing, par 15 men behind the ball, and just invite pressure on for Derry. And Derry are going to find it hard to get a goal. And lo and behold, they got a goal. I just came out of nowhere, really, with Noel Turner hitting the back of the net. And Noel Turner hitting one of the last few minutes. He's some sort of a hero now for Derry, because that was a sticky game to come out of. That game, you would have thought Derry scoring 1-something in the first few minutes, Shane McGuigan scoring a penalty. You're thinking, oh, here we go, Louth are going to fall apart here. But at the same time, when you look at Louth, they recovered brilliantly. I think it was Liam Jackson that got the Louth goal, maybe one of the Jacksons anyway, got the Louth goal, and they were level at half time. They were in the game. But then Derry, they found a way to win a game, and that's a good sign of the team as well, Aaron, because Derry, they weren't performing particularly well, but they still won it. So that's a good sign of a team, and they'll definitely be big team to beat. That game against Meath now, that's live on RT in Owen Big. That's going to be some game, I'd say, some atmosphere as well up there. So it's very much looking forward to that. But in regards to Louth, if I was a Louth fan, I'd be sickened. I wouldn't say 0 points disgrace and all that. They were 3 points ahead of Clare and lost the game. They were 2 points ahead of Derry and lost the game. Louth have performed so well in 2 games, and they still have no points on the board. They'll be absolutely sickened by that. But I'd say they'll be encouraged by their performance. But at the same time, we said it before, with Galway, Donegal and all them teams, You have to get points on the board sooner rather than later, or else questions are going to ask as weeks go on.
Yeah, like I think there are positives to take there from a loud perspective, and if they can keep up those level of performances, I think you could maybe see them stay up. But obviously, they do need to get results on the board, and they do need to get wins on the board in order to hunt for that survival. Just run through some Division 3 results. So it was Down 218, Antrim 217. It was Cavan 119, Tipperary 17, Offaly 19, Fermanagh 1-8, and it was Longford 9 points, Westmeath 4-16. Any results stand out there? I mean, huge result for Westmeath, poor enough from a Longford perspective, and maybe the Down and Antrim game a lot closer than what people expected in the end.
Yeah, Down Antrim statistically was the most entertaining game of the weekend. So who would have expected that out of two Ulster teams?
Not many actually.
Yeah. So like it was a very, very good game to watch. And what I was hearing, Down were very, very lucky to come out with a win. Very, very lucky. And again, we talked about it with Derry earlier on. Shows a good sign of a team. Like Down a few seasons ago would have lost that game, but they grinded out the win even when they were performing particularly poorly. It's interesting with Antrim actually because keeping their scores and everything. They have the 9th best attack out of any team in the Alliance League so far, and they have 0 points on the board. Like, I suppose it's a common theme with Andy McEntee. You said at the start of the season as well. His sides attack well, and then defensively they fall apart. So maybe it's the same for Antrim. But there's a few positive signs for Antrim. Look, 2 good performances, but again, like Loud, no points on the board. And as the weeks go on, the questions will be asked. Cavan, good win for them. Tipperary, I think, Conor Sweeney gone. I don't rate Tipperary's chances at all. Good enough win there for Offaly against Fermanagh. They're getting 4 points on the board, so very good achievement for them. For Longford, I think, they have the worst attack in the league. 17 points. No, it doesn't look good. And we mentioned with the O'Byrne Cup as well. Like, does it really show much? They performed excellently in the O'Byrne Cup. They hammered Loud in the final. And they've been terrible in the first 2 games. Losing to Fermanagh pretty comprehensively. In this game against Westmeath, conceding 4-16. That's a very, very poor showing from Longford and Paddy Christie, and they need to get points on the board sooner rather than later. But Westmeath, they're a team to watch. 10 different scores in this game, so it shows you there's a bit of variety in this Westmeath team as well. So that's good to see as well. John Heslin hitting the form, rolling out 2 very good Nigel Harts, very good players all over the field. They're a quality side. Won the Tailteann Cup for a reason last year. So Westmeath are motoring on nicely as well. So should be an interesting division in the next few weeks.
Yeah, and as Jack says there, as a Longford fan, he says we were dreadful, something wrong. Yeah, like 2 red cards as well. I've seen just on Scorpio there. So, I mean, it is very, very surprising. And, you know, you can accept defeats and everything else, but to lose by that, like, I mean, like that's a 19-point defeat in your own division. Like that, I think that's the biggest win so far. I think biggest margin of victory for any side across all 4 divisions. And maybe Leitrim's might have been more, but against Waterford. But that's absolutely bizarre. Make no question about that. Billy says Jack McCaffrey comes back. When Jack McCaffrey comes back, it will be huge. Footballer of the Year player, one of the best wing backs ever, best attacking wing back I've ever seen. Mannion is also class. Mannion, Callaghan, unmarkable. Yeah, it's a good point, and we still haven't seen Jack McCaffrey back for Dublin yet, which is, you know, I would like to see him get a lot more game time ahead of the championship. But hopefully we will get to see him maybe against Cork the next day, or at some point in the league. Just run through some Division 4 results then. So it was Waterford 10 points, Carlow 111, it was London 115, Leitrim 312, and Sligo get a win away to Wicklow by 18 points to 12, and Laois 118, Wexford 113. So I suppose Laois back-to-back wins there. Obviously Sligo getting their first win of the season, Carlow getting their first win of the season, and Leitrim sealing back-to-back wins once again.
Yeah, very good. I know Leitrim, they might have had hearts in their mouths in this game against London. They have over the last few years, but a win's a win. Very good win for them, and they statistically have the best attack in the Alliance League, and there's a reason for that. They have the top scorer in Keith Byrne. Again, this guy, why he doesn't get as much credit as he deserves on League Sunday. 217 in 2 games. That's ridiculous for him. You know, he's an incredible footballer. And the fact he's working with Andy Moran as well, one of the greatest forwards we've seen in our generation as well, it speaks volumes. And hopefully, I know he's been to Croke Park as a pundit, but hopefully at some point in his career, in the next few years, he gets to play in Croke Park, because he is an incredible footballer, incredible player. Laois, very good win for them as well. Very, very impressive. 2 wins in a row. And we said this Laois team would be in a bit of the doldrums, but they've won 2 games in a row. Very good for them. Carlow, my predictions are terrible, because Carlow, I thought, would come close to last in this division, but they've done well. Won another game at the weekend, albeit against Waterford, who aren't that great. Well, they aren't great, let's be honest, aren't. So, good win for them as well. And, good win for Sligo against Wicklow. Oisin McConville needs to get a win on the board as well to stem the nerves there. But, Division 4 should be very interesting between, particularly, I think, Laois, Leitrim, Carlow and Sligo. I think that'll be our top 4 at the end of the year.
Yeah, Keane says here 2 wins for 2 for Leitrim. Ruislip is a tough place to come away with a win, but Leitrim held off a resurgent London's challenge to win by 3 points. Still on top spot, Leitrim promotion favourites. Billy says Leitrim doing well under Andy Moore, and Leitrim are flying at the moment. Leitrim are football mad county, but limited resources. Great to see them doing well. Andy Moore, a future Mayo manager. Sligo will only get better as the league goes on. We're very good tactically against Wicklow. Keith Byrne show in London, says Richie Ryan there. I suppose before we run on to the hurling results, we'll just run through football team of the week, or the GA Fan TV football team of the week. Maybe we'll start calling it. Obviously chosen by myself, and we'll see if Matthew maybe has any disagreements. And now, obviously, as I said last week, do bear in mind that I haven't seen every game up and down the country, so there might be an element maybe of guesswork a little bit about this side, and you're obviously looking at match reports, seeing what people are saying, and obviously judging off the games I have seen. So this is the side I've gone with anyway. So Noel Morgan in goal there of Tyrone, Padraig Hampsey also of Tyrone in the full back line, Conor Daly of Roscommon and Tom O'Sullivan of Kerry make up the full back line. Paul McCrogan of Derry in at wing back. He scored 2 points in that win, of course, for Derry against Louth. You have Derek McVeety in there for Cavan at centre back. I thought he'd very good in at centre back, scored 3 points against Tipperary. Brian Sachs in there of Roscommon. In midfield, Sam McCartan of Westmeath and Pat Spillane of Sligo. Half forward line is Mark Barry of Laois, Rory Grugan of Armagh, and Brian O'Driscoll of Cork. And then the full forward line, Aidan O'Shea of Mayo, Donal Lenihan of Meath, and Donal O'Sullivan of Kerry. So plenty of Donals in there. Any thoughts on that?
First of all, Aaron, his name's Padraig McGrogan for Derry.
I've messed that one up. There we go. I've lost some of the Derry faithful.
But to be fair, he did have a very good game. Very good game against now Darren McVeety. I agree with most of that team, to be fair. Brian O'Driscoll, 3 points. Couldn't ask for much more from Cork. Donal Lenihan, 2 goals. Very good. Aidan O'Shea is most people wouldn't have kind of, let's say the balls to put Aidan O'Shea in the team, but you did, Aaron, and rightly so. He had a very good performance against Armagh. I thought he played well. Most people wouldn't have thought he played well, but anyway. Donal O'Sullivan, very good performance for Kerry. Couldn't argue that. Rory Grugan, very good. I don't think you can argue much about that, Aaron. Again, at the same time, you're just looking at match reports, and there isn't much shown on League Sunday either. So, at the same time, I think there was only, 2 live games this weekend? So, you can only judge on the match reports and scores and stuff like that. So, if you're judging by that, I think that's a fair enough thing.
Yeah, in terms of some honourable mentions I listed here, at Dara Canavan, Evan O'Carroll, Rian O'Neill, Conor Turbot. Ross McGarry actually scored 4 points for Dublin, so I thought he definitely deserved a mention. Dean Rock also finished with 1-5, albeit I think all of which were from, I think, 1 penalty and then placed balls as well. And actually, Brian Lynch of Waterford, I felt like deserved the shout. I was looking on Score Bio, scored 8 points from midfield. I do think the majority of which were from place balls, but it certainly is worth a mention there. John Heslin, Dara Roach, and obviously Keith Byrne, as you said there as well. Definitely players who all deserve a mention.
And another one as well, Mark Rossiter. I think he scored 10 points for Wexford at the weekend as well. Good show. And did you put Keith Byrne in the team?
I actually don't think I did know, and I'm actually just
Yeah.
thinking maybe I should have. Maybe I should have put him in. Maybe ahead of Aidan O'Shea, but I'm not sure. It is a hard one to know because like Donal Lenihan's finished with 2-2. I think 2 goals were from play and 2 points were from play, but again, it probably is a lot of guesswork. And obviously, there's so many games to look at here. Keith Byrne is maybe just one that got away, as Richie Ryan says. So maybe Keith Byrne does deserve a mention there. But I suppose we'll run through the hurling results. We won't go on for too long because obviously we have gone on for quite a while already. But I suppose the one really to talk about was Cork against Limerick. Cork 2-17, Limerick 22 points. As you said, a good weekend for Cork supporters at half time. It certainly didn't look that way. Limerick were 8 points to the good and looking like the Limerick of the championship really from last year. It looked like they'd really sort of, it didn't look like National League Limerick. It looked more like championship Limerick. But you done the business in the second half. You turned it around and got the win.
Very good win, yeah. Look, it looked pretty bad at half time with the amount of wides we had. We were thinking Galway all over again. We haven't solved the problem at all, but geez, they showed fight in the second half, Cork. Like Patrick Horgan really shut up the doubters, me, with 10 points, very good performance from him. And 4 for play, very good performance from him. It was a good performance from Cork, but a lot of people are saying we've had the trophy again this season. I'm thinking, have we learned that seriously? Like it's the league, it's the first game. Like, concentrate on the Munster Championship, see if we can win there. So that's going to be the big be on and end all for Cork hurling the next 2 weeks. So good performance from Cork. But a few things I want to say. Robbie O'Flynn, hopefully he gets well soon. 1-1, but he came off with I think it was a broken ankle. I think it was. Hopefully he recovers soon because he had a brilliant performance as well. So hopefully he recovers in time for the championship. And just for the Cork fans that booed Cian Lynch for coming on, disgrace. Why? Like, what did he do? Seriously, it's. I don't know. Really, are we living in a football culture in the G with amateur play? I don't know what it is, but geez, it has to stop now with this. Cian Lynch, but and he took photos with Cork fans at the end of the game as well. So the question why the Cork fans would boo him, I don't know really. But a good win for Cork, but a bit of a negative thought there.
Yeah, like I think from looking online anyway, I think a lot of people were saying it was a section of younger supporters. So hopefully they learn from that anyway and don't do that kind of thing within the GA. Although it does happen though. Like I've been at plenty of Dublin games down the years where, against Meath and Kildare and players are coming on, they get booed. So this isn't a first. Like this happens quite regularly, and you watch plenty of club games, you see abuse being thrown left, right and centre. So I did think there was an element of a lot of people gunning for the Cork fans as well, and I did feel that was a little bit unfair considering it has happened up and down the country for years really. But I suppose the fact it was so visible and it was on TV and it was a player being subbed on like Cian Lynch, and obviously the commentary mentioned it as well, it definitely did bring a lot more light to it, and hopefully it doesn't happen too much. But as you said there, like, I mean, like, obviously you did come back and win, but like, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because you've beaten Limerick plenty of times in the league down the years, but it hasn't really meant that when the championship comes around. So, like, how do you even feel about it? Like, like, in some ways it was great to get the victory, and obviously the players celebrating at the full-time whistle and the supporters and everything else, and some of the new lads coming in like Robbie O'Flynn, Declan Dalton looking very good. But as you said there, like, I mean, it's hard to know really, because although Limerick did look very good in the first half, there was a huge drop from them in the second half. Like, I think they only scored 5 or 6 points in the second half.
It was, yeah, and it was a huge drop off. Like I said it on my channel when you were on for the hurling preview last week with the question, does the league really matter? And a lot of fans would say before this weekend, no, it doesn't. It doesn't have any relevance on the championship at all. So at the end of the game, yes, it was a good win to get over Limerick, but I'm thinking it's the league, I'm not. I don't really care about. Like, I'm thinking get some players up to match speed. That was the main thing for the league campaign. And what we did actually, we brought in Decky Dalton, very good goal, very well taken goal, and I think that'll give him confidence over the next 2 weeks. I think Brian O'Sullivan had a good enough game. And again, Owen Downey from full back, I thought had an excellent game from playing Rovers. I thought he was very, very good at full back, especially in the second half. Pat Collins played well as well. So, yeah, but you have to take into account as well that Limerick team, it was mostly a second team arm. When you look at David McCarthy in goal, Dermot Burns wasn't playing, Aaron Gillan wasn't playing, Keane Lynch only came on, Garrett Hayward, he went off early, Graham Mulcahy came on as well. So it was a mix and match Limerick team, and we beat them. Look, move on to the next game now against Galway. And try and get some more players integrated in. But it's the league. I'm not entirely over the moon with the results. I know it was a good win to get out in front of our massive support there, but at the same time, it is only the league, Ireland. Some fans probably need to just calm it a small bit.
Yeah, Richie Ryan also says here, what a game that was. Great performance from both teams. So early on in the season, need to stamp out that behaviour. These players give great sacrifice for their county. Absolutely, yeah. Like, and considering it is an amateur sport, like you don't want to see that type of behaviour going on. Just looking at the other two games that were in Division 1A, so Galway got themselves a win away to Wexford, 23 points to 15, and Clare beat Westmeath 427 to 14 points. Mark Rogers in there with 2-2. You had Aidan McCarthy back on the side. I think David Conroy as well scoring 5 points. So some good positives from Clare. Obviously disappointment from a Westmeath perspective, but then again, we've seen a lot of these results, and even the Tipperary win against Laois probably in the same bracket as well.
Yeah, and we've seen it over the years, Aaron. Does these games really matter? Are they going to tell a lot about these games? Like, there was one particular game where Cork scored 7 goals against Westmeath a few seasons ago, and you're thinking, what are we learning here? It's no offence to Westmeath and Laois and Antrim. I know they put so much into hurling, but like, the end result is inevitable. They're going to get hammered by these teams. And I'm, to be honest, I'm nearly sick of it. And Seamus put up a very good idea as well, to have five division league in hurling, to have like 6 of Division 1 and then 6 of Division 2, and then you'd actually have credible relegation and promotion then, and that will make the league a bit more exciting. Like, it's just not, to be honest, like Division 1A, 1B, literally the same division. Like I said in Seamus' podcast as well, that there was a good system a few seasons ago with Division 1A, that's the main division, and Division 1B, that's the secondary division. And they should have just kept it that way. But they changed it. Again, the GA, why do you need to change it? It just takes the emphasis off the league, and it doesn't really matter at all. Look, it was a good performance, good confidence booster for Aidan McCarthy getting 5 points. But to be honest, I don't think Clare fans would give a jot about the result, to be honest with you. They were expected to win anyway. Yeah, it was a comprehensive win. And as for the other game with Wexford and Galway, I was watching this game as well. Wexford really spurred some chances in the first half of this, and it was difficult to watch, really. It seemed to be the same problem again for Wexford. They had a year on year. They just can't take their chances. And this is a big thing with Wexford, and probably the reason why they can't be up there with one of the top class teams in hurling. That's a big thing. But Galway, a lot of scorers on the sheet, so very good, very positive for Henry Sheffield there. Liam Collins, who I think will have a big year coming on, very good performance. Brian Kilcannon showing his football skills as well with a point, so very good performance from him. So good win for Galway, but for Wexford, they need to get their shooting sorted, or else they could have another mediocre year.
Yeah, I did watch the Wexford Galway game as well. Like, I thought it was a fairly uneventful game. There wasn't really too much to report or discuss, really. And as you said there, I think you put the nail on the head, really. That the more the game went on, I think the more Galway just started to pull away, and Wexford probably started to lose grip of themselves. Looking at Division 1B, Tipperary beat Laois 232 to 18 points. I suppose, as you were saying there, like, it's hard to judge that kind of a game, because at the same time you're looking at it and thinking, we haven't probably learned too much about Tipperary or Clare in those results. And obviously for those two sides, Laois and Westmeath, I mean, because like even looking at Division 1A as well, like with Westmeath being there, we've got, what is it? They're up there with Cork, Limerick, Galway, Wexford and Clare. I mean, I know they drew at Wexford last year, and they might maybe scrape a draw, but even at that, like we're all sitting there knowing Westmeath are going to get relegated there, like, or they're going to be in the relegation playoffs. So, yeah, like I suppose from a Laois perspective, similar scenario.
And I probably showed in the game, Laois are Drum at Dole Cup team and Tipperary are the McCarthy team. And that's it really. Yeah, it's again why these games. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of time for Tipperary. It's a waste of time for Laois. It's a waste of time for us, to discuss these games. And yeah, we try to be positive about these games, but we know the end result before the ball's thrown in, Aaron. And it's just, it's a pain. It's just a real pain. And I know Anthony Daly is saying Tip could be ones to watch this year. And I think they have outstanding players, no doubt about that. But they didn't learn anything from this game. End of 2-32 against Laois. Move on to the next game. And yeah, there was a few other interesting games in the week. But yeah, Tipperary, Clare, hit the nail on the head there. Didn't learn anything at all, really.
Yeah, Keane says here, a great result for Dublin, drawing with Waterford. You could look at that, but in some ways I actually disagree. I mean, Waterford finished the game with 13 men, and we looked fairly, we were in front sort of going into the closing stages, and Waterford pulled it back and nearly beat us. So in some respects I look at it and think, like, the score was Waterford 219, Dublin 316 was how it finished there. And yeah, like, there were some positives to take from a Dublin point of view, but again, the thing that's been lacking for Dublin in the last couple of years, in my opinion, really since we won a Leinster title, has been that killer instinct in the final 10 minutes against the big teams. And Waterford, for me, were there for the taking in their own backyard. It's, even beating them, it's a result that maybe wouldn't have meant that much in the context of things, but it would have meant something psychologically moving forward. So, yeah, I was a little bit disappointed that Dublin didn't come away with the win, but a draw at the same time away to Waterford probably isn't the worst result.
It isn't, no one considering Laois and Antrim in the division as well. It's not a bad result, really. And maybe a league title maybe would be nice for Dublin, really. So if you want a league title, if you're gunning for the league, that is, I think this could be a setback of a result, really. You need to get in the top two to have a chance. And if you beat Waterford, you realistically would have been on 6 points heading into the Kilkenny and Tipperary game. So that would have been nearly half the job done. So yeah, I think Dublin will have some regrets about this game. Waterford's quite interesting. Stephen Bennett's 2 goals came from penalties. Most of them came from placed balls as well. So they didn't really cover themselves in glory. Waterford. Dublin, I thought, were looking at the highlights anyway, looked pretty attacking and they looked threatening at times of the game. And yeah, I think there'll be good confidence booster. Keane O'Sullivan looks a good young player coming in. Donald Burke still looks as good as ever. Alex Constantine, very good corner forward. So yeah, there are some positives for Dublin bringing new players, but I'd agree with you. Probably is a point dropped more than a point gained for Dublin. Especially if they're going to challenge for a league title, if they wish to do so, of course.
Yeah, and Keane Boland obviously finishing with 3 points as well, 1 man of the match. So that was good to see from a Dublin perspective. And then it was Antrim 15 points, Kilkenny 118, Billy Drennan scoring 1-8, really putting his mark up. Obviously, we were discussing on your own show during the week in terms of maybe what new players could be introduced. And Billy Drennan, he was top scorer in the under-20 hurling championship last year, comes into the Kilkenny senior side, scores 1-8. And yeah, I mean, probably not, maybe, only a 6-point win away to Antrim. It's a hard game to judge in terms of that, where did Antrim play that well or did Kilkenny maybe struggle at times? But I suppose the main story there is that the Kilkenny production line is not slowing down anytime soon.
It is, no, and we were saying on the podcast as well last week that Kilkenny still have some very good players and they're kind of going in under the radar this year. As regards to this game, I think it was dominated by the weather, really. I know it's an excuse and stuff like that, but it looked terrible up at Garba Bark and it was struggling for scores and all that. It was just for Kilkenny to get out of there, get the win. That was the main objective for Kilkenny. They're playing Tipperary next week, which should be more looking forward to that game, actually, because 2 interesting sides, Kilkenny under Derek Ling and Tipperary under Liam Cal, both under new management, both have new players coming into the panel, exciting players like Billy Drennan, like Darrell O'Connor, so very good. Very excited about that game. But for this game, look, Antrim will take some positives. Looking at some of the game on BBC Northern Ireland, was in and out of the game, to be honest with you. And it looked like Antrim missed a few chances to take the lead in some parts of the game. So they'll be, they'll regret those misses. But at the same time, look, Kilkenny will move on to next week against Tipperary, and this game was just getting out of Corgan Park and win, and they did that.
Yeah, and just finishing up then with some Division 2 results. So big win for Kildare away to Carlow, 25 points to 11. Quite a statement win there by Kildare in many ways. Derry got beat by Kerry, 14 points to 222. And Offaly getting the win away to Down, 21 points to 18. Matthew, cheers very much for coming on. Obviously, I was on your show during the week, so I suppose if anyone's looking to check out your own podcast, your own show, where can they find you?
Yeah, it's on YouTube, GA Statsman. If you just search that, search it on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook. Be it a TikTok work as well. So search it on Google as well, and my own website up as well about stats on games and stuff like that as well. Going back all the way to 2019. So if you can check that out, that'd be absolutely brilliant.
Perfect, Matthew. Well, cheers very much for coming on. And if people could hit the like button, subscribe, be very much appreciated. And cheers everyone for coming on.